right, everyone. Welcome to episode, I believe we're on episode 7 now. Investigativo Sapientiae. Zachary couldn't be with us today. Got some important things getting school done. And we have our guest, Britton Johnsen, here. Don't have him on the video, but he's excited to be here. You can tell from the picture here. And I'm excited to have Britton Johnsen. I've known him since I was a little kid. And now we'll let you guys get to know him a little bit. Britton, where did you grow up? What was that like for you?
Grew up in Murray. First of all, excited to be on and happy to be here as well because I love your dad and your sweet mom, Michelle, and also your new stepmom and the rest of your family. And I've always enjoyed being with you and your brother. So I'm excited to do this with you. I grew up in Murray, Utah, and just an awesome family. 7 brothers and sisters. I'm actually leaving Murray right now to drive home to St. George because I come up and stay with my parents when I have to, like a business meeting or whatnot. I don't usually get a hotel. I just go stay with my mom and dad because I'm still so close with them. And I saw all my siblings while I was up here for the last 3 days because we're just a tight, close family. So I'd say I had a very nice, wonderful childhood growing up and love the city of Murray as well.
Nice. And when you were growing up, was the church always a preeminent part of your life, or is that something you had to like kind of grow into? What was that like?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I won't, I won't hold anything back on that or try to act like it was anything other than it was a big part of my life. My dad was a bishop in the LDS church, the Mormon church. My dad's parents were active members. My mom's parents were. But one thing I would say I was fortunate to have growing up was my dad's family was a mix of people that were members of the church, inactive members, and then also people that weren't. You know, at family parties, there was typically some families that, you knew they weren't practicing the Mormon faith because they were drinking. And I had parents that did an incredible job of making sure I understood that even though we weren't partaking of alcohol and drinking, but that we treated family with love and respect and kindness no matter what, and those types of this. And it just kind of gave me, I think, a nice, broad, non-narrow-minded view of the world because I grew up with LDS people and people that weren't LDS and people that were other religions and people that didn't practice it, but knew that I could love everybody just the same, no matter what their religion belief. But I definitely grew up a strong LDS home. All my brothers went on missions. My dad went on a mission for the church, and yeah, it was a big part of our lives.
Yeah, it's definitely important to recognize that just because someone maybe believes things a little bit differently than you, that they're still family or they're still close friends, and we can always lift each other up. And there's no
Yeah,
real point in putting people down just because they believe a little bit different than we do.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think that was a big part of the way I grew up because it prepared me for a life of sports and business work, being around people that typically weren't part of the same faith I was, and it didn't help me. It didn't hurt me at all. It made me actually, or what I mean by it didn't hurt me, it actually prepared me to just not view anybody differently. Just kind of like, yeah, I've got business partners that like to drink, and they know I don't, but it doesn't affect the way we do our business together. It doesn't affect our relationships. Just my decisions and their decisions don't align, but that's okay. We find common ground in our love for people, our love for sports, our love for God, and it's all good.
Yeah, I find that people are usually pretty generous, especially if you lay down kind of like your boundaries early on. Like when I went to Italy for a month and a half, and there was wine served at every single meal we went to, but I was always ordered a Coke, and no one was always like, "Hey, you have to drink this wine. We're in Italy. You have to. It's part of the deal."
Yeah. Well, you know what? And sorry, Jesse, did you say people said you do have to or you don't have to?
Yeah, no one forced it upon me. They were very understanding because I had
Right.
let them know beforehand.
That's awesome. Well, and that's good. That's a great situation you're in because see, I've been in situations where I played basketball in France, and our team was sponsored by a wine company, and after every game, we'd all have to go drink wine with the sponsors, with the people that were paying the club a lot of money, and it actually offended a lot of people that I wouldn't drink it. And I just told them, like, listen, I'm not trying to offend you. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. This is just part of my belief. And at times it was uncomfortable. And I think that these typical, not typical, but these certain French people were mad at me. But at the same time, I gained a lot of respect, I think, from people as well.
Yeah, for sure. And basketball is obviously a huge part of your life. Um, what was that like trying to decide serving a mission or focusing on your basketball journey?
You know, during the time I was getting ready to go on a mission, it was just a difficult time in life in the sense that I was enjoying life and enjoying basketball to the highest degree. I mean, we just played the national championship. I played for University of Utah, where Utah basketball was kind of the main thing in town, other than the Jazz. There's just basically the Utah Jazz and Utah basketball and BYU basketball, and we were like walking around like rock stars. So it was fun. It was flattering. It was enjoyable for an 18-year-old kid. And to leave that and go do a mission was hard. But at the same time, I had incredible influences and examples in my life that helped me understand why I should go serve a mission. And it was the best thing I ever did. You know, I met incredible people on my mission, like your father. I taught incredible people. I have relationships still to this day from my mission, and it just taught me about life. It taught me those decisions, and so it was hard to go, but I look back and I wouldn't change anything, even if like I knew a mission 100%. You could prove that a mission hurt my chances in the NBA. I still wouldn't have changed the decision. I would still go.
Yeah, and it's something that not a whole lot of people get to see because how often are there such prominent athletic figures that have to decide between certain mission now? Like most recently, I can think of Jabari Parker had initially decided, but then decided not to go, or like Steve Young was one, or Bryce Harper, kind of like the big names of LDS athletes. And
Yeah, yeah. No, I think for them, it's not that I look down on them for not. It's a tough decision, you know. Some people feel like they can influence others by being an active member of the church, like Steve Young has, and be a prominent NFL player. Bryce Harper as well was married in the temple, and not even for a second do I look down on them and say you just served a mission. In a way, that was their mission, was to stay close to the gospel and stay at the top of their game. And I think they both are doing an incredible job with that. Depending, you know, if you're going to continue to be a great person and influence others for good, and you didn't go on a mission, then right on you. I think that there are things that a mission offers that you can't replicate in the real world by serving with a companion, and you are living off a couple $100 a month for food and hoping the members will serve you, and you're out strategizing with members on how to bring people into the church. There's definitely aspects of the mission that you cannot gain by just saying, I'm going to be a good member of the church, I'm going to play baseball or football. So there's that. But then there's also on the other side, there's things they're doing with staying in their sport and staying active in the church that's great for the gospel. So I see it as a positive on both ends, and I think Bryce Harper and Steve Young are two incredible dudes.
yeah, I like what you're saying. When it comes to our own journeys spiritually, it's such an individual level that it's impossible to have like a flat answer for what everyone should do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's different for everybody, that's for sure.
And so you entered the NBA, what was that, 2003?
Yeah.
And I don't know, did you ever like talk to, pretty sure Sean Bradley's a member of the church, right? Did you ever talk to him?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Sean and I know each other really well. We had a lot of good conversations before my mission, after my mission, while I was in the NBA. My very first NBA game, it was a preseason game in Dallas, was versus Sean Bradley and the Mavericks, and he and I sat and chatted for a while half court.
Very cool. Just a couple of super tall LDS people.
Yeah, they look very similar.
Um, so I don't want you to feel like this is the only thing I ever bring up with you, but it is something that's really popular in your history.
Sure.
Even this article that I have pulled up from the Salt Lake Tribune back in 2014 is Britton Johnsen, the ex-Ute who dunked over LeBron. I even went through and I found a clip of the preseason game where you guys played against the Cavs.
The Cavs up big time early, but there were some highlights
play that for the people at home for a second.
Gaines, the stop and the pop from three-point land. A little bit later on, Gaines finding Britton Johnsen, and it's a big two-hander for the rookie from Utah. Second quarter, Darius Miles going behind the back, finds LeBron, and LB just getting silly. 14 points on the night.
It's kind of funny to watch this so far ago, knowing where LeBron's at now.
And check out Johnson, the rookie
Here it is.
free agent, huge dunk over the $100 million
There's
man.
the dunk over LeBron for everybody at
Johnson, man, everybody was going off.
What's it like being around people who have such big names? Because I mean, LeBron was one of the most famous people in the world as an 18-year-old. You know.
Yeah. I think it's like anything in life. You think it's going to be amazing and incredible, or anything. You might think that something's going to be amazing, incredible, right? Like thinking about going to Hawaii, or thinking about going on your church mission, or thinking about meeting someone. And then once you do it and you meet them, it's still awesome. But then you just kind of adapt. You kind of adapt to the situation. You're like, okay, he's another human being. He walks on two legs. He eats, sleeps, drinks, poops, just like the rest of us. And it's like, he just happens to be an incredible basketball player. And it just kind of normality sits in. And after a while, it is what it is. So obviously it's cool to look back on and be like, oh man, I played against LeBron. I dunked on him, blah, blah. But in the moment, it's just like anything. You just kind of like go through you're in the moment, and you don't really, I think of it too much. I was starstruck one time when I checked into a Lakers game, and I check in the game, and across from me is Shaquille O'Neal. To the left of me is Karl Malone, and then kind of diagonally for me is Kobe Bryant. So I remember that being like kind of a cool moment that I'll have like in my memory bank of, wow, that was awesome.
Undoubtedly. But I guess like part of it, like being a professional athlete, you kind of prepare for those moments your whole life, right? Like you play against anybody and you learn how to not look necessarily at what the competition is, but you're going to play your game and stay under control the whole time.
Sorry, Jesse, you went out on me. What was your question?
I was just talking about how like when you've been playing basketball your whole life, you're really preparing for those moments. Like you have that in your sights. So when you get there, right, you become less worried about who you're playing against, but just playing your game and being under control.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what preparation's for. I think that's what practice is for, is to prepare you for big moments. And sometimes those moments, everybody else thinks they're enormous and big, right? Because the names that are on the jerseys. But at the end of the day, you're just preparing to go catch a ball and put it through the hole, man. And yeah, you're playing against other guys that do it really, really well. But at the end of the day, man, everyone's just, they're walking on two legs, wearing basketball shoes, going up and down a court, trying to put a ball in a basket. It's just, I think your mind, because of what everything is built up around it in the media and whatnot, makes it seem like it's this out of body, out of mind, out of world experience. But at the end of the day, it's just basketball, and you got to kind of remind yourself of that.
Definitely. And would you say like you've used that kind of same mentality throughout your life with any other challenges that might come your way, whether it be, something with your job now or something within religion? Like, problems are eventually going to come up, but you do all your time preparing, doing the small things to get to that.
Oh, that's a great question. I do public speaking right now, and last week I just spoke to 80 different McDonald's restaurant owners, and I remember as I was getting ready to go up on the stage and speak, I started to feel nervous, but then you just got to kind of remind yourself, at the end of the day, you're just talking with other human beings, and yeah, they want you to like present something to them that's incredible, but you just have to kind of be genuine and yourself. And same thing with you doing your podcast, right? At the end of the day, you're just talking to another human being, and maybe one day you'll get, like a governor on your podcast, or you'll get an NBA player, a football player, and you just got to understand, even though it's like feels like a big moment, you're just talking to another human being about, life and trying to better the world. And sometimes I think you step back from a situation and you realize you're the one that's making this bigger than it needs to be, and you go do it. Things don't work out perfect in anything, right? I'm in a car driving to St. George right now. It may not go perfect, right? Like I may get somebody that cuts me off or flips me off. I may have car problems, but at the end of the day, right, you just kind of approach things one moment at a time, and if things don't go the perfect way, you deal with it, you learn from it, you grow from it. If things do go great, hopefully you have the whereabouts to be grateful that things went great, or be, if you're a God-fearing person, you thank God for each day that goes well for you, or each day that you're able to overcome trials.
Yeah, for sure. And like you were saying, you do a lot of giving back now. Like you've been running this camp as recently as 2018. I don't know if you still do your camp with your brother.
Well, we would have, but the coronavirus
Yeah.
kind of knocked us out of commission. So we had it going for 18 years straight. Or not 18 years straight. I think it was like 17 years straight. And this was our first year not doing it.
Yeah, I know that when I first moved up to Utah, we actually came in and stayed with you, me and my little brother, and we went to your camp, and that helped my transition to Utah tremendously. That was not like an easy part of my life, but hanging out with you and being able to shift my focus to something positive rather than the negativity that I felt personally moving to Utah was, a big blessing for me. And I
Oh,
wanted
that's
to
awesome.
thank you for that.
No, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it's funny. At the time, I didn't think of that for you as being a helping hand situation. But it's fun when you can hear it from other people and you can look back and be like, wow, I didn't realize that was I influence for you, it's easier for you. So no, I'm grateful you told. I'm really glad you told me that, because in that time of my life, I was just like, hey, Bobby and Jesse are staying here. Let's go to basketball camp. Let's go have fun, But you sometimes don't understand what somebody's going through internally, and so no, if I was helpful during that time, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. That was fun. I remember it being fun that you guys stayed with us and that we were going to camp every morning together, and that was a fun memory.
Yeah, those kinds of memories make me miss basketball. I didn't end up playing all the way through high school and stuff, but for like external reasons, not necessarily for basketball itself. But I
Yeah.
really think that sports or any kind of hobby that you can, focus on building yourself and focus on positivity just does volumes for you in the long run, allows you to overcome adversity much better in life.
Yeah. I was in a conversation with my brothers last night, and we were just talking about our different mission companions, and my twin brother just made a comment. You know what? The best missionaries are the ones that love sports and played sports. And it's just kind of like, oh, it's kind of probably not fair to say, but there was a lot of truth to it. I mean, in his mission, he noticed it. I noticed it in my mission. Particularly like missionaries that wrestled. We all had missionaries that were like wrestlers from Idaho, and they just made like for good missionaries, right? Because the mission's a competitive field, or competitive, and being able to talk to people and get people to listen to you, and you got to be able to deal with rejection and deal with things not going your way. In sports, you learn that in sports. Sports is just an incredible like life lesson, life metaphor for up and down trials. And so I think it's awesome to take any aspect of sports in your life that you were able to play and apply it to things you can learn. I think it's a great thing to do.
Now, I want to go back to your mission a little bit. Would you, because what was the mission necessarily called back then? It was like the East Houston mission, North South.
No, my mission was just the Houston General.
Okay.
So there was the Houston East, the Houston South, and then Houston General. And mine was General. So we covered north up to Dallas, and then west out to San Antonio. Like there was a city called Sealy, Texas, that I actually served in. In fact, your dad drove me out to Sealy, and that's where I served after I was in the Woodlands, where I met your parents. And yeah, it was an awesome mission, man. Houston was just full of great conversation, especially there's so many people there that believed in Jesus Christ and believed in Christianity and the Bible. And so we found a lot of common ground. And then obviously, at the Mormon church, we used the Book of Mormon along with the Bible. So there was more to add to what people already knew. And yeah, I loved my mission. I thought, in Texas people in general, there's a mentality of just love and hospitality there that I was fortunate to kind of be a part of.
Yeah, that was quite a lot of area to cover in one mission.
Yeah, it was. I only was in 5 cities,
right?
But it was a big mission for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know my dad drove you out there, but
yeah,
I was trying to think of other missionaries I remember coming to our house back from that time, and I really couldn't think of any. I don't know if it's just because we kept in so much better contact, or you just kind of made that impact with us.
There was nobody else for you to remember. I was the most important one, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, I could barely fit on your shoulders without hitting my head on the ceiling there. And I was a tiny
funny.
kid.
Yeah, when I first met you, you were a young little dude. That's for sure. You guys were an awesome family.
Yeah, we came out to see you play against the University of Texas out in Austin. That was pretty fun as well.
That's right. I remember that was my sophomore year, the year after my mission. It's good times.
But I wanted to kind of move into probably been pretty busy. I don't know. You probably didn't have time to read this, but I wrote one of my posts was about fame and what's the usefulness of fame and different things like that. So, like, when you were, starting your career into the NBA, was fame something you aspired to? Did you, want to use that to make any, I don't know, I won't say, a movement or anything, but was that something that you looked forward to being in the NBA, or was that kind of in the back of your mind?
You mean as far as using, my platform and stage to maybe push something like an agenda or something that I was passionate about? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, in one sense that, or some people just want fame just to, have money and have everyone know your name. I mean, everyone takes it differently.
I definitely wanted to make money. I mean, everybody wants to make money, right? Everybody thinks about having a lot of money. So that was that was in my mind, right? Ever since high school, and people say, hey, you're going to play in the NBA. I thought, hey, one day I'm going to make a lot of money, but that's a part of it. But I would say the majority of my mindset was just excited to be a professional basketball player and play with the best players that I grew up watching, right? And it wasn't about the money as much as it was about just being able to play in the NBA. And the money part of it was awesome. I didn't make a ton of money. I never stayed in the NBA for that long, but we got to experience, my wife and I, as a very young couple, having quite a bit of money in our bank account that most people our age probably wouldn't have. So yeah, that was a fun part of it. But I didn't really think about making the NBA to push any agenda or anything like that. More maybe I thought, hey, if I make it to the NBA, I'm just grateful I can be a good example for the Mormon Church and for, being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
For sure. Yeah, I talked about some of the things that I would do with fame. I was kind of joking on the first part where I was talking about, I might ask Selena Gomez out on a date. I'm being single, so I can do that. Or working with some of the famous artists. You have Chris Brown or Drake or something. But then when I think about fame and what's really good for, I read in Jacob where he talks about if you seek for the kingdom of God first and you seek riches so that you can help other people, then maybe you'll be blessed with that and be able to do that. But having your heart to make sure you're uplifting other people rather than yourself as the goal of doing that.
So do you want to hear something crazy, Jesse? That is actually my missionary scripture. That was on my plaque. The
Really?
seek ye first the kingdom of God. Yeah, I always loved that scripture. I thought it was a good one, and then it also talks about keeping an eye single to the glory of God. And I don't know. I felt like going on a mission. I was sacrificing a lot. It's like everybody sacrifices a lot, but I remember just kind of feeling like, man, I'm leaving behind this Final Four basketball team, these awesome opportunities to go play maybe in the NBA, but I want to seek the kingdom of God first. And yeah, I'm not like a millionaire right now. I didn't make a ton of money, but definitely the things that were added unto me, I think, were just a light and knowledge of the gospel and a strong testimony, and a wife also that has a strong testimony. And at the end of the day, those are the things that we all want, that we want to are the most grand blessings in this world.
When you decided, you went on a mission and you're in the NBA and then you're doing all these things, what was something that you always kept constant that helped build your faith and testimony, that always kept you grounded to the gospel?
I think just a simple understanding of knowing that it was never going to be easy. It was always going to be hard, and I had to accept that and understand that, and it's still with me to this day. The gospel of Jesus Christ, the Lord's truth, it's not easy. It's a hard path. And it's a hard path because it's a path that promotes growing and promotes, strength. And that's okay, right? Other people want to choose their own path, and they want to look for an easier path, and that's fine, but you're not going to grow. You're not going to be strong, right? You're not going to, the Lord's way is not our way, and that's okay. The straight and narrow path that we talk about is a path of kind of going against the natural man, and that's okay. And I think that's what kind of always kept me on the right way. And to this day, just I have to remind myself, hey, being a member of this church isn't easy. I have to have a calling. I have to teach. Like this Sunday, I have to teach a Zoom meeting to the elders quorum, and it stretches me. It strengthens me. It makes me grow.
Was there ever a time that really tried your faith? What did that look like, and what did you do to overcome that?
I don't ever really remember feeling like my faith has had to be tried, other than at times in my marriage. Financially, we've had some struggles, and it's hard to pay tithing, but you do it, and you hope for the best, and things have always seemed to kind of work out.
Yeah. Well, I think for a lot of people, it's definitely a thing where if you stay on the right path the whole time, it's easier to stay there than to kind of jump back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Not that you can't, but...
I think that people that try to have one foot in and one foot out, they're going to find it's difficult, right? I mean, the Lord wants you on the straight and narrow path always. He wants you on the straight and narrow path 100% of the time. He wants you to endure to the end. I see people leaving the church. I see people choosing different ways, and it's like, it doesn't say endure 50%, 60%. It says endure to the end. And people want to find their own way because they want an easier way. So that's their choice, but I think one day they're going to regret it.
What's something that you would say necessarily to encourage somebody who maybe had a strong testimony and then something came up and they're not sure anymore? They don't know if they would rather stay in the church or just leave and find answers elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm dealing with that kind of stuff right now. I have brother-in-laws that are leaving the church. I have friends that are leaving the church, and I'll have conversations with them. But at the end of the day, it's about, like I just said, enduring to the end, holding to the rod. Typically, when somebody lets go of the rod, they give you their reasons why, and it's just confusion. It's like fog. It's like it talks about in Nephi, 1 Nephi chapter 8. You let go of the rod and you go into the fog. And I had a conversation just recently with a close family member of mine, and everything that he tried to tell me of why he's not wanting to live the gospel anymore. It just made no sense. It was just stupid and foggy. And so I just said, listen, man, you know better. Whatever it is that's making you do this, like, go elsewhere. I think you know better. And I hope that you figure that out and come back. So that's about, it's just about giving them simple advice.
Yeah. And people can definitely see from your own example that it's coming from a place of love, that you found happiness in this and you just want the same kind of joy for them. One thing I also liked in that same example is when people are getting lost in that fog, it talks about them like finding strange paths. And some of those people even got to the tree. They, felt the love of Christ. But in my head, I envision people that maybe they start thinking that they are too smart almost. And they start overthinking things like, oh, this can't be this way because of something I read over here. And they start creating these different scenarios that maybe started off on the basis of truth, but have kind of wandered off from that.
Oh, yeah. I think the Lord wants you to grow and learn more about the gospel, but at the same time, he has his simple truths. And one thing, Jesse, that I see that gets in these people's way is, like you just said, they think they're too smart, and then they rely on their own wisdom, and that's all about pride. Some of the best basketball coaches, most brilliant basketball coaching minds I ever saw were guys that they didn't have pride. Like Greg Popovich of the Spurs, he was the first professional coach to bring in a female coach, and he brought her in, and she's awesome. She's more than qualified, but the fact that she was a female, people probably were like, no, you can't do that. And he's like, yes, I can, because she's amazing. Well, he doesn't have pride. Greg Popovich has shown that he doesn't know everything. John Wooden, the famous UCLA all-time winning basketball coach in NCAA, said, I'm not finished in this life when I'm dead. I'm finished when I'm done learning. And you can always keep learning, but in order to learn, you have to drop your pride and be willing to learn and not think you already have all the answers. So I've got a close family member right now who thinks he has all the answers, and he's going to find his own way back to God. And it's like, man, it doesn't work that way. He wants you to bust your butt and serve and do good things, but at the end of the day, you have to accept that it's his path. And the reason you have to accept it is because his path is what's best for you. It's like a father that tells their kids, I want you to start a business and grow it this way because this is what I've done. And the kid says, well, no, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do my own thing too. And he's like, no. Just do it this way, trust me, and you'll have a successful business, and you'll be able to grow in it and learn. And the kid still just keeps saying, well, I want to just change this. And the dad's like, no, don't change that. Do it this way because I love you. I care about you. I know that this is what's going to make you have a successful business. And eventually, hopefully, the kid drops his pride. He's like, all right, I'm going to stop doing it my way. I'm going to trust and have faith in my dad. Well, it's the same thing with the gospel. We just got to stop trying to figure out things on our own and have faith in God and know that it's his path, it's his way, it's his roadmap.
Yeah, that's a great point. I've been blessed to have a really smart dad, so I haven't had that problem, but I've definitely seen some of my friends where they're like, Dad, you just don't get it. And regardless if their dad is actually right.
Yeah. I mean, we all have our own free agency, right? And that's a blessing. But it's okay to recognize the times when you need to be humble and submissive and meek and childlike and go to your father and go to your earthly father and your heavenly father. And that's what he always asks us to do, is be humble, submissive, and meek, and let the Spirit teach you. Stop always relying on your own brains and wits, because he's the one that knows the best.
Right. It was like when Ammon was talking with his brothers about how excited he was that they had converted so many people. And they're like, Ammon, you need to calm down, don't get too boastful. He's like, oh, I'm not boasting myself. I didn't do any of this. The Lord changes people's hearts, and I'm so excited for them that they get to experience the joy of the atonement in their lives.
Oh, yeah. Such a good story. I love that story. And he's basically just saying, if I seem boastful, I'm sorry, but it's more I'm boasting in my God and in the glory of God. And it's so good. So good. I love that story.
And then normally we have like a topic that maybe was at the forefront of your mind. Like, have you had anything that you've been just like pondering repeatedly lately?
Jesse, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, you went out on me. You said, is there anything on my mind that I'd want to talk about? Is that what you said?
Yeah, something that's kind of just been at the forefront of your mind, like like when you get a moment to rest, that just kind of, it keeps coming back to you and you keep thinking about.
You know, not necessarily anything in specific. I think right now our whole world is just dealing with obviously something that we've never ever experienced before. I mean, yeah, there's been other pandemics, but it's been very interesting to watch the way people are reacting, the way people are treating each other, the way people are stepping up and serving and trying to make things better. And it's interesting how sometimes it takes calamity and it takes destruction or a pandemic to really find out what people are made of and to really find out what people's real intentions are. And I think it's been sad, and at the same time, it's been incredible. So more incredible than sadness, but the sadness, it just is too bad that it gets a lot of attention from like the media and people want to talk about the sad things that are happening, like the fighting that's going on in the streets or whatever. But I just think, a lot of my conversations right now have been surrounding, obviously, the whole COVID pandemic. And I believe that we'll get through it. But at the same time, I hate that it's divided people so much and it's turned political more than it has just about the health and well-being of people.
Right.
So if anything, it's just to have to witness, but at the same time, you try to take the good out of it and see the good that's coming out of it as well.
Yeah. And, we all have our hardships and whatnot. When you decided to go to Europe, was that a pretty difficult decision for you? Or was that just like, here's an opportunity and I'm taking it?
It was difficult because I wanted to play in the NBA as long as I could. And I think I could have played maybe 1 or 2 more years in the NBA had I stuck it out. But I was anxious to make good money. And, we had good offers over there. So, yeah, we jumped on it. It was a good opportunity. But I don't regret it. It's just more you like to sometimes play that game in your head is, hey, maybe I would have done things a little differently had I had the chance,
Right.
So, yeah, that's about it.
A little more off topic, but like when you were over there, were you able to get enough time off to go see all the old stuff around there? So I know you were in Athens for a little bit. You said you were in
Not
France.
as much, yeah, not as much as I would have liked to. My family did. My wife and my kids and my parents and her parents came, but I'd get one day off and I just wanted to lay around because I was so tired and worn out. But no, definitely, I still, had moments where we got to go do things and it was fun. There were some fun moments, and you got to go see historic sites. I played in Istanbul, and I got to go see, Istanbul and some of the cool things that were there, and yeah, it was fun. There was different times we got to go and like see some of the ancient ruins, like in Greece or the Parthenon, and then in Turkey as well. But it was more or less just a quick visit, and then I'd have to get back to my apartment or my house and rest up and be ready for practice or a game the next day.
So their schedule over there is a lot more demanding than the NBA, or is it just
Way more demanding, 10 times more demanding. Practices were harder, travel was more difficult, practices were longer, more was expected of you. You were unguaranteed. You could get cut any moment and not paid. So, oh my gosh, like
lots of stress there?
the time and survival and stress in Europe was 10 times worse than it was in the NBA.
This is more of a speculative question, but could that be why some of the younger talent coming from Europe tends to be more prepared when they get to the NBA?
Absolutely. Don't think you're speculating on that. That is 100% truth. They are more prepared because they kind of have to be converted into basketball men sooner than the players in America do. So yes, 100%. That's not speculating. You're right on, Jesse.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. We're going to go into what we call on the show Diamonds in the Rough. So what we do here is I'm going to read you off a quote, and then we'll talk about the quote for a little bit, and then I'll tell you who said the quote afterward, and you'll be free to guess if you want. But let me pull it up. So the quote here is, "The answers you get depend upon the questions you ask."
Okay.
I'll read it again. The answers you get depend upon the questions you ask.
I guess it means it's what you're searching for, right? You're searching to find out which truck is the best truck on the market. You're going to probably ask Chevrolet people why Chevy's the best truck, and they're going to tell you it is the best truck. But if I ask Dodge people what's the best truck, they're going to say Dodge is the best truck. Same with Ford. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I think somebody that doesn't know anything about any of them, they're going to probably just say what they've heard. And I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting quote.
Kind of reminds me of the experiment they ran back in the day. They were trying to decide if light was a particle or a wave. And when the first person who thought it was a particle went in to run their experiment, the result came back and said light was a particle. But when the person who thought it was a wave went into the room and did their experiment, it came back and said that light was a wave.
Yeah.
So your perspective definitely can change even basic realities.
When you talk to somebody about their political views or their religious views or their social justice views, typically people's opinion is what they've experienced, right? Like if a black person has the opinion that cops are all racist and he grew up going to family barbecues and his uncle always told him about getting beat up by the cops for doing nothing but just being a black man, well, his views are going to be that cops are racist. But if you grow up like I grew up with a cop that lived across the street from you who demonstrated kindness and compassion to people, I would say, no, I'm going to defend cops all day long because they're not that way. But typically it's what you experience in life.
Yeah, that's very fair. And like we're talking about, when people decide they want to look for truth outside the church, some people ask the question like, why was my former belief wrong? And that's how they'll go about searching for it.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get negative answers from that because you phrase the question in that way.
Sure.
And you could get the same thing too if you wanted to just reaffirm your own echo chamber beliefs. Like, why am I right? You're gonna find answers for that too.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%.
Did you want to take a guess on who said it? This is kind of a tougher one to guess.
I have no idea. It's pie in the sky, man. I have no idea.
Yeah. I don't even know if you know it once I reveal it, but his name was Thomas Kuhn.
Okay. Who's Thomas Kuhn?
He was a American philosopher and scientist, really popular in the mid 60s.
Wow.
And yeah, he talked a lot about, I think he wrote a book called like Scientific Revolutions.
Right.
And talked about how, if you change the way you think, you can change what's possible, I think is the basis of it.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, we kind of just do closing thoughts. Like, from this conversation, what's something that you think is actionable that someone could take away from this and start implementing into their daily life?
I think that we covered some good topics about just what, my views basically are just life. Life wasn't supposed to be this joyous, easy ride all the time. If it is, good for you. But everybody I've ever met in life, Jesse, that's had things handed to them, inheritance, money, whatever, cars, houses, they typically don't find joy in it. The people that find joy in things are ones that had to go and work build, fail, get back up, and go figure things out. And I've met several people that have had their lives destroyed because they were handed money or they were given things, and they don't feel value, they don't feel worth. And I think it's okay to struggle in this world. I think it's okay to have bad things happen. Right before you and I did our podcast, I got on the phone with this basketball player from BYU who's having a rough time right now, and he's a freshman, and he's a highly touted freshman. And he just told me he's struggling. He can't figure out why. It's like, dude, you're struggling because it's normal, part of life. It's part of a freshman basketball season. You got to figure out how to be a successful high school kid, then go be a successful college player, and that's not easy. So do things that are hard, work at them, and stay working at them, and watch things start to turn and change and turn around. So if there's anything I would hope people would learn is just it's okay to have setbacks in life. It's okay to have difficulties as long as you're learning from them, as long as you're finding a path of resilience from them. That's how we learn. That's how we gain understanding in this world.
That's an excellent point. And definitely not one that's easily learned, but rarely things that are rarely things that are worth learning are easy, right? Everything takes effort. We need to put ourselves out there and, take risks too. And you might learn things that you weren't ready to learn, but, it's worth the effort of going through it and being like, this kind of contradicts something I had learned before, but can I adjust to this if it is true, right? Adding it to my collection of truth that we're trying to all get.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely grateful for examples like you in my life, having people like my dad being able to give me advice throughout the time. And, he's always one of those people who's like, just work harder. That was, whenever I got into a situation, it's like, just work harder. If I didn't get the starting spot at first, it was like, just keep working hard. That's worked out for me.
He's a smart man. I see so many dads, it's like, oh, well, let's go transfer your son. Let's go do this. Let's take him here. Let's take him there. And it's like, no, you can work harder. You can do this, and maybe it doesn't turn out the way you want it to, right? But it's okay. You learn from it.
Yeah, the lesson is kind of more important than the outcome sometimes.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you again for being on the podcast. Hope you have a safe drive. And say hi to the family for me.
You got it, Jesse. Good luck, man. You're doing an awesome thing, man. So keep at it, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay. See you, bro.